What's up, everybody? It's Circus and Herf here with another kind of different meta-analysis video. We've done some meta-analysis videos in the past, but for this one, we really want to look at how to beat the meta, since that was a question that we were getting. So let's get right into it. Circus, what do we have first?
We're gonna do Thunder Dragons because I gotta admit, even I am not really sure when to disrupt this deck. How do we slow it down and keep it from doing what it wants to do?
So first of all, the biggest point here is that all of the Thunder Dragons have a hard once per turn on all of their effects. So Roar can only add one back from the grave or banish spell to the hand. Dark can only search once. Hawk can only summon once. So this is really important because what you want to do is you don't want to interrupt before they've used all of their effects, because then they'll still have a lot of resources and be able to play around your disruption. So what I do when I'm playing against these decks is I kind of wait. I play patient. A lot of people like to jump the gun and they really want to disrupt early. Think that early, treacherous trap hole will kill them off. It's not. They're going to search. They're going to be able to special summon stuff back. Both Glow Up Bulb and Plague Spreader will summon themselves from the grave if they're there. So what you really want to do is you want to wait until there's a threat already established on the board, and then react to that threat and not the setup like you would normally do for synchro decks.
So what? Do you wait till the battle phase to tretch them, or let's say you got a floodgate? When do you floodgate or Canadian?
So you want to floodgate once they've summoned what you want to floodgate, if that makes sense.
Like
So
the
you want to
Levianeer or whatever?
Yes, well, yeah. So the Levianeer can't attack the turn that it activates its effect, so it's less of a threat. But you want to floodgate like the Vulcan. You want to floodgate the Scrap Dragon. You want to floodgate stuff like the Duo.
So
If
once they synchro.
Yeah, so once they synchro, once they've established a threat on the board, or once they've clogged themselves, right?
Because
So if I have
the individual Thunder Dragons aren't really so much a worry.
Yeah, each Thunder Dragon, the Raiden isn't a worry. Stuff like that doesn't really bother you. It shouldn't really bother you if they're going to set up into a Black Rose, and you don't have a response for a Black Rose, like a Void Trap Hole, like some kind of negate, like a Fiendish Chain, a Chalice, things like that. Then you really want to avoid them from Black Rosing, because that can like just screw up your other disruption. So I would say unless they're setting up a level 7 synchro, do not touch their board until you have to.
Okay. Now, this deck that's on the screen plays Grit, but a lot of them do play Baggy Sleeves. Do you want to attack in, take out a level 5 or higher monster, and give them that draw 2 the next turn?
I guess it depends upon what their hand is at. If their hand is already pretty big, chances are they're already going to have stuff to do their turn anyways. But if their hand has nothing in it and they're in top deck mode, you really do not want to give them another draw, because that can be like another Gold Sark, other resources. So if their hand is already big, I'd say it's a marginal risk. But if their hand is really small, you don't want to allow them to have more chances to top deck, because then you'll just die.
Do you want to just take these guys out on one turn, or can you kind of chip away at them?
I think it's best to kind of quick OTK them. It's not always possible, but Thunders do have a really good way of grinding through, because Roar will add stuff back, Hawk will summon stuff back. So I think it's best to try to kill, like, OTK them. But if it's not, you do have some ways of grinding them out in terms of floodgating stuff and kind of keeping their board clogged.
All right. We're gonna move on to the deck that you predicted to be a hot deck, and that's true, proving to be true right now. Dark Magician. This is a one that a lot of people are gonna complain about, right? Because it seems like you always got the rod, circle, navigation combo.
Yeah, so if they go first with like Rod, Circle, Navigation plus another set, well, I think a lot of people try to do is they try to like 50-50 the navigation with their Cosmic and try to like guess at which one it's at. I think the best play and like the most correct play is if they have two sets, to always go for the Circle, because it's guaranteeing to get rid of their monster removal or like their card removal, and it's not like gambling at all. If
Right.
you have two, then like you can try to 50-50 it to like get rid of their negate. But if you only have one Cosmic, you really want to wait and for them to want to use their Circle and then banish the Circle, because like all besides that, their deck is not really that threatening. Because I mean they have Treacherous, but a lot of decks have Treacherous. It's not like a unique threat. Dark Magician is only 2,500 attack, so if you get rid of their way to remove cards, um, they can't really do a whole lot. So using your Cosmic Cyclone and backer removal wisely is the biggest key to beating Dark Magician.
Because if you take out their circle, and they flip their navigation and they bring out their dark magicians, it's like, okay, now what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean
Right?
2500
Yeah.
attack is just not that threatening right now.
And the navigation's
So,
not ready or can't be used till the next turn anyways. So
yep.
you get rid of that circle. There's not much they can do.
Yep.
There are like the Kaiku and then that level 2 tuner. You got to worry about those much.
I guess it depends upon the deck you're playing, and it depends on the situation you're in. So, for those who aren't familiar, Kaiku will prevent any cards from being banished from the opponent's grave, and Knights and Sorcerer, when it's summoned, it will banish two from the opponent's grave. So, if they go like Treacherous Trap Hole into Kaiku, that could be a big problem if you're like an invocation trying to summon something, because they'll be able to stop you from banishing from your grave. So, you just have to be careful about like the timing and if you're in a situation where you would get screwed over by those kinds of grave manipulation.
Hitting those with a floodgate or Canadia, does that work?
Um,
Or is it like
Canadia,
when summoned kind of thing?
Canadia will shut off Kaiku, but it will not summon Knights and Sorcerer since Knights and Sorcerer is awesome.
All right, well there you go. So when's the best time to disrupt this deck?
Basically right away, like you want a Cosmic there, Circle as soon as they activate it to prevent them from adding from the deck and being able to adjust the top three cards. Basically, if you disrupt their setup, a lot of times they just get bricked and then they can't do as much. Or if you can stall through those early turns and get to the grind game, they often like lose out on a lot of resources.
I've been playing Luna Lights a lot lately just because I'm more free to play than a whale like I used to be. But I find you get the big monster out, it can't be targeted, and then you just sit there and chip away at their dark magicians, and then they realize their navigations aren't any good, they can't do anything with them, everything's in the grave, and then they just realize they're in a downward spiral.
Yep.
All right. All right, Shiranui. That's another one that's been a hot deck lately, especially the invoked version, right? That's kind of seen some popularity lately. I hate playing against this deck now because it takes me back to the days of I'm going to summon a monster and set 3 back row.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to disrupt Shiranui is just like you would any other disrupt the synchro. However, the more unique thing about Shiranui is that they have the grave. So using cards to prevent banishing, for example, like a Lancia does this really, really well. Or other cards like we talked about the Knights and Sorcerer, the Kaiku, the things like that, or even Chaos Hunter is a really, really good free to play option to prevent the opponent from banishing. So you can kind of use different cards to kind of stun Shiranui, and once they're stunned and left in this kind of awkward position, a lot of times you can OTK them because they kind of rely on being able to use their recursion effects through like the Squire will draw and then you will summon and then you kind of ladder. But if you kind of chop that ladder in the middle, they're just kind of left in this awkward spot and can't really react and win at all.
Right. With them, a lot of times, don't take the bait. Like a lot of times they'll summon them. And yeah, don't take the bait on just hitting stuff and put it in the grave because, like Herf said, they can just use it to synchro ladder. So keep that in mind. All right, and the last one we wanted to talk about was Element Sabers, the king of the decks for the past 6 months. It feels like I don't know how long it's been.
Yeah, since before time started.
Right. How
But
do we
so
play against this deck? It's won the KC Cup. It wins tournaments. It won over the
yeah,
hearts and minds of the people. How do we beat it?
I think your two best options are either to out resource them or out grind them. Alistair's a really good like fusion card because it nets 0, so it nets 0 cost both times except the extra deck. So if you have a Titus or their Percatrios and they run out, they don't have an alternative win con. So if you can survive their fusions, right, which can be a lot, but like some backer like Floodgate or a Canadia or stuff that will kind of shut them down for that turn and you can deal with it easier. If they run out of extra deck monsters, they don't have a secondary win con a lot of times. So that's one really valid way of beating them is just out resourcing them. The other one is just addressing what they do in specific. Like I said before, just kind of stopping them from banishing, stopping them from fusioning, things like that. So they do have threats like the Malehus, like the Lapalias, who can disrupt in your turn. However, a lot of times they need that elemental Palace in order to get those cards from their deck. So if you have a backer removal like a Twister, on an Unending Nightmare, like a Cosmic Cyclone, and they activate it, the correct activation of your backer removal is not when they first place it on the field, but when they activate its effect on the field. Because once they've activated that effect on the field, they won't get a battle phase for the next turn. And if you chain to destroy it, they won't be able to search, and you will have dealt with that threat. And they will, of course, have their battle phase skip for next turn. You won't get anything, and you come out ahead in that interaction. And after that, they've just minus one for your hand, and they're kind of left in an awkward spot. So those are some really good tips to beat that deck. Addressing the fusions, like I said, also very good.
We know that Canada and Floodgate are two staple cards. A lot of people play them in every deck. Where do we use those in this one?
Purgatrio. Purgatrio is like the best like boss monster in the game, in my opinion. So if you have a Floodgate, you don't touch anything until you see the Purgatrio. If you have to, the Lapalia is on board, you can force a negate by trying to flip that one down. Then they'll have to negate it to keep it face up if they want to negate in the next turn. And then you can flip it down. So you have to be careful about Lapalia. Some are playing it, some are not. But really, you want to be focusing on shutting the fusions down, because without the fusions, they don't really have a win condition.
All right. So great stuff. I hope this helps you guys have a little bit better matchups on the ladder. Maybe you're playing in tournaments. So take what you see here. Hopefully you can apply it. If you like what you saw, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, all that good stuff. And tell us in the comments below what other videos you want us to make, because this was a fun one for us. And we're more than happy to do it. So I'm Circus. That's Herf.
See ya.
We'll see you next time.